That is in process. We will also have closed captioning. So as you speak, please enunciate clearly into your microphone, as this helps us keep the meeting functioning very smoothly. So for those who may not know, my name is Christie Holland. I am a co-chair of the Community Mobility Committee, co-chairing with Aubrey Bryson. Aubrey, I saw that you are here. If you want to wave at the gang, that would be great.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, so with that said, if anyone ever needs any other accommodations for these meetings, you can email me at Christie R. Holland, or you can email Aubrey. And we will have those emails listed in the chat. As a reminder, this meeting, the Community Mobility Committee meeting, is a place for residents and anyone who's interested in advocating for and learning more about mobility and transportation issues in the city of St. Louis. So as we have these conversations, we ask that you please be respectful in all your questions and all the conversations that we have. We are grateful to have so many people here from the city, and we just want to encourage everyone participating to be respectful of their hard work and their efforts, as well as all the varying opinions. When you do have the opportunity to speak, please avoid jargon and acronyms. If you are using technical terms, please use the chat function to define that term, and ideally share a link in the chat. And we do this just because everyone in the committee may not be knowledgeable on certain terms. So we want to make sure that this is an inclusive space for learning and actually participating. Also, please be mindful of time. While we do want everyone to have the opportunity to participate and join in on the conversation, we understand that we are on a time limit, so we do encourage these conversations to happen outside of the CMC meeting, both through the notes and like if there's questions with our speakers, we will send over questions to them and they'll be able to engage with you after the meeting. The chat box is our friend. So again, if you want to dig deeper into conversations, feel free to blow up the chats. Like that's what it's there for. We're here to have a great conversation, okay? Now, with that said, we do have our city staff and elected officials here. So we do want to take a moment to recognize you all. Thank you so much for joining. And if you can unmute yourself, please introduce yourself to the committee.
Okay. Good afternoon. Scott Ogilvy, City of St. Louis Planning and Urban Design Agency, Program Manager for Complete Streets, and hop over to Bethany.
Good afternoon. I had to look at the time. Bethany Williams, Director Streets for the City of St. Louis.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Kohler with the city's Board of Public Service, and I'll pass it to Alderman Browning.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Michael Browning, Alderman of the 9th Ward. And I cannot see who else is here. So anyone else from the city, please speak up. I think that might be it.
Yeah, I think that is it as well. Thank you all so much for joining. We will move on to the next agenda item. So in the chat, I posted a link to the last meeting's minutes, which was November. It seems like forever ago. So hopefully you had a chance to look through those. And if you had any questions or concerns, let me know. This is a good time to talk about it. And if there are none, we will move on to the next topic. Going once? Going twice? All right. Well, we will move into the next segment where we are sharing just some of our concerns, excitements, thought pieces on everything that's going on in transportation in St. Louis. I know I spoke on earlier, this fog today definitely presented a challenge for a lot of us traveling to the city, and the ice earlier this week. Or what was that, last week? So if anybody would like to share any concerns, reports, unmute yourself and let's have the conversation.
I wanted to vocalize a concern. I know that since our last meeting, December 5th, there was another person walking that was struck and severely injured at the Chippewa crossing by Ted Drew's. And I just wanted to elevate that was something we had 2 people who were crossing the street there that were killed in 2022, and we came up with some interim solutions at the time, but those still haven't been implemented. And so now, 2 years later, we have another person severely injured, and I just think we need to come up with a more responsive way to be addressing problem locations that we have been a problem for a long time, because 2 years and still not having something implemented and another person being injured is just unacceptable.
Thanks for lifting it up, Taylor.
I do just want to respond to that real quick. Christie and I did actually send a letter to the city about that, just from the co-chairs, not from the wider committee, expressing that that would be a great opportunity for interim solutions, which we have been asking for. We haven't had a response from that, but just wanted to let you know about that.
I did have a couple quick things. I did want to bring up, I'm not sure how many people saw it, but as St. Louis Public Radio did a story the other day about a pedestrian who yelled at a driver getting shot for slowing down on a residential street. It looks like, you know, there was some bad timing. There were some other shootings that happened that same day. And so it really got no press whatsoever that this person got shot over this. I'll drop the link in the chat in a second. The other couple things I wanted to ask about was there's a couple court dates that are coming up for drivers. The one was on the quick trip at Chippewa that ran after killing a pedestrian. And then there was another one where they assaulted a cyclist in Clifton Heights. Both those court cases are coming up, and so we're trying to collect letters of support from the pedestrian and cycling community, especially the advocacy groups, to encourage the city prosecutor and the judge to not do a slap on the hand.
Thanks for that, Patrick. Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody that the survey for the RAM settlement money ends pretty soon, February 2nd. I know CMC sent out emails saying please participate if you can. I just sent the link in the chat, so if anyone who has not voted of what they want to, how they want to use the RAM settlement money, please do it very soon before it expires. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Mike, for that reminder.
Looks like Christian, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I had a question. I don't know if anyone can answer, but potentially someone from the city. The mayor has announced a mobility and transportation master plan. I just wanted to know if anyone had any updates about what the timeline for that coming into being is, or what the process of creating it looks like. If this body has a big role in that. Just any info on that plan. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, we expect to start in March of this year. And view the CMC as a key stakeholder through the process. I think there will be lots of opportunities for CMC members to participate individually and as a whole committee.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for that
Thanks, Scott.
question. And thanks, Scott.
I do want to lift up by state. I'm not sure if you all are using the Transit app or get any notifications from them, but they have been doing amazing work in their hiring process and even just communications and making sure we know what's going on with the routes, all the service updates and things. I get all the notifications because I take transit, and that ice storm got hectic really fast. So they did a fantastic job on keeping us updated on what lines were open, what were closed, which lines were closed, and when they will be open again. So shout out to Metro. You're doing awesome. Is there anything else we would like to lift up or bring attention to before we move to some great updates from the city and Trailnet?
I had one more thing.
Okay.
I had some great conversations with the neighborhood improvement specialist managers, in the last few days. For those, blocking sidewalks with vehicles is a huge pet peeve of mine. And so I've been, kind of trying to elevate a couple locations in the city that I routinely pass by that are easy to document. To kind of show the process and how damaged, how defunct it is. So basically, like you send it to CSB, CSB sends it to Streets, Streets sends it back and says, known problem, or it gets sent to parking enforcement, and basically it gets bounced around and nothing actually happens, and the sidewalks continue to be blocked. I had a great conversation with Karen Clifford, who's the supervisor over at the NIS, and basically they are offering to send letters to business owners, friendly reminders from the city themselves, to kind of point out the rules before it gets elevated, if it gets elevated. But anyway, I'll drop her contact information in the chat. She's very nice. She's very open to helping however she can. Feel free to use that contact as you like.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That will be helpful later for sure. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who shared something, lifted a question, brought some things to our awareness. Let's keep that in mind as we talk through some of these updates coming from Trailnet and the city today. We will have a presentation from Trailnet. Bryce Monser will be giving us a 2023 crash report. So I'm super excited to see what this is. I've been doing a lot of work around safety and looking at the fatality numbers and serious injury numbers for the region. And from some preliminary data, it's not looking the best, but there is some improvement. So I'm excited to see what Trailnet has to share.
Thanks. It's far less of a presentation than you might be looking forward to, but we are looking through a lot of the final data from 2023. Sam McRory, who has been doing a lot of the work on that, is abroad right now, so he can't be at this meeting to tell you more about the specifics. Adam Tracer is also on this call, who might be able to shed some light, but I wanted to take this time to talk about a new component to the crash report that we're doing this year. We are trying to collect more sort of human scale stories about people's experiences using streets in whatever mode of transportation they use. So I am adding in the chat a link to an open form document where we're collecting these stories. And there's also a flyer that I'm including that has a big QR code that we've been handing out around town for folks to post up. So if you have a business or if you are a regular at a coffee shop that has a way to post this, we would really appreciate if you could print it out, post it up so we can get as much diverse input about people's different experiences using streets, to use that as an additional advocacy tool in this already pretty powerful, mostly quantitatively driven crash report that we've been putting together for the last couple of years. So I just think that this piece of it adds like a little bit more fodder when we're making arguments for enacting positive change. So if you yourself would take this and add your stories, and if you would share this with people that you know have stories, or anybody else who you think might be interested, we would really appreciate it. We should be wrapping up the crash report for 2023, hopefully by mid-March. So at that point, we will have more specifics to report, and hopefully Sam will be back to field any more specific questions about data. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. So the work that you've done up to this point, what do you see any common themes or just things that caught your attention? What stands out the most so far?
Thus far, I if I'm recalling correctly, I'm pretty sure that the number of fatalities in the county have gone up. I think that they have either met or exceeded the number of fatalities in 2020, which was like a record year. The pedestrian fatalities in the city have gone down. But I think that the number of crashes that has resulted in a pedestrian injury has increased, unfortunately. So I haven't been in this field long enough to know what to take from that, but it's all pretty heartbreaking, and it's odd to kind of talk about these as just like simple data points and trends and stuff when we're also thinking about the fact of like these are human lives that have people who love them. So that's the piece that I'm sort of wrapping my head around. But so far those are a couple trends that we've noticed so far. And if you have more specific questions, I have the data so I can get you actual numbers with locations if you're interested in that, but I can't off the top of my head, I can't tell you quite everything.
No worries. I know I have one more question and I'll open the floor for questions as well. I know when looking at crash reports and collecting data, there's been an expansion on data sources. So police have expanded how they collect data and what data they collect. I've seen reports where they offer different hospital reports, things like that. Have you seen or have you all expanded like what data you use to tell a story? Or I know you said you've added in more human stories to really express what's going on and like get a feel of what's going on, but is there any other data that you're adding to the report that wasn't in there last year?
Well, this qualitative data where we're trying to get stories and that narrative is a huge, I mean, that's a huge data source. So I think that that's the direction that we chose to go. We did think about including sort of near miss data, but that's so poorly recorded and we didn't quite know how to get access to that. So from a quantitative standpoint, we've been using the same data sources that STARS reporting, which I think is all police reporting data. But you know, if we had more if we had more person power behind this project, I would be interested to see what more we could do. But for now, this is where these street stories is really where it's at, which is why we're trying to get as many people to participate as possible.
Okay, sounds good. And if you find that there's some data that would be helpful, just let the committee know. We may be able to pull something together or someone knows something. So,
okay, cool.
Patrick, I saw that you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you asked a similar question where I was headed, but I was just curious about the data sources, but it sounds like it's all coming from STARS at this point. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah, I know some folks get their data from MoDOT sources, but the like sheer amount of numbers that we're getting and like it would just be too much. I don't know what the rationale was, but that's how we've been doing it has seemed to be the most efficient.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw out my 2 cents in that we, you know, since we have a retail storefront, we routinely see, you know, crashes. We just had one from Jefferson and Choteau, where driver turned in front of them and, you know, bike was damaged. And when you ask these people, did they file a police report? 9 times out of 10, they're not getting reported. because
Yeah.
they're not serious injuries. And so, I think obviously we all know this, but, needs to be said, and that the data is probably significantly low over what's being actually reported.
That's a really good point, and I think that further reinforces that need for, these stories that people can tell that didn't end up on our police report, but they're still data points, so to speak.
Are there any other questions for Bryce? I'm sorry, Bryce, go ahead.
I was just gonna add that you will have the information that we have will be available very soon. So if you don't have a question now, we'll have a document soon enough.
Sounds good. And is there a deadline for when we can submit stories?
Ideally, we'd like to have them by the end of this month, so like a week. And for the sake of a deadline, I'm just gonna keep it as a week.
I have a quick question for you, Bryce, but I also do want to echo Patrick's point that I think that underreporting is a huge concern. That I know a lot of people personally that have had crashes who haven't reported them. I would love to see the city take up some way to collect those after the fact. But just for the report, do you know if you're going to keep track of any like national trends and how St. Louis fits into the wider picture? We know that traffic crashes are up around the country, but I'm curious if there will be any comparison there, if you have any like wider data other than the region. Thanks.
I love that idea, and I don't know how to answer it now, but I'm going to make a note on our shared document to look into that, because I think we do have something about like where St. Louis ranks traditionally. We just have like a little graphic or something. Is there more to that than just seeing where St. Louis like compares to other places in the nation?
Yeah, I'm just curious if it's like, we all feel like St. Louis has the worst drivers anecdotally, but do they? And, is this a nationwide problem?
I'll look into it.
And I'll add one more thing. So I am responsible for presenting safety targets for the region, for Illinois and Missouri. And in looking at this, I'm realizing that I don't have any information or data that can help me understand what policies or projects are actually helping us reach goals or are hurting our efforts. So is this something that may be covered in the crash report? Like how are policies and projects around the city affecting us meeting safety targets or fatality targets and serious injury targets?
There's probably an opportunity for us to put the first thing that comes to mind is how all of these statistics that were coming up relate to the measures that East West Gateway and the city. We were just at that Street Safety Action Plan meeting. That seems pretty aligned with sort of the policy portion of this. I don't know quite how to answer that question.
That's okay. Just know that that's something that's been on my radar. I want to be clear in that the projects and policies that we put forth are actually helping us meet our goals. So just keep it on your radar. And
Okay.
Are there any other questions before we segue into city updates? I think this is a great time to understand what's happening in the city.
I guess I just wanted to ask if Melissa wanted to say a few words about the regional safety action planning process that is underway now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of updates right now. I know that the task force, the local stakeholder task forces kicked off in the last couple weeks on Missouri and Illinois. So that plan's in full swing right now. Hopefully have some bigger updates to share soon. you know, if that's something we're interested in having a presentation on at one of these meetings, possibly next month or something, we can look into doing that, because I just don't have a whole lot of details right now, but that's going to be a comprehensive safety action plan for the entire St. Louis metropolitan region, and hopefully enable local municipalities to apply for funding for implementation of the plan through the same program, the Safe Streets and Roads for All, which is a federal funding program. That makes sense.
Thanks, Scott and Melissa. All right, if there aren't any other questions, thank you again, Bryce, as well. We definitely are looking forward to that report. Next, we will hear from John Kohler on program federally funded transportation projects. So take it away, John.
Thank you very much. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are. And if you can see it, everyone put a thumbs up in the chat.
Well, the city's very excited to share with you the latest status of all of our currently programmed TIP projects that are either in design or just ready to start design. The presentation that I'm going to give today will also be posted and updated frequently on our BPS website. So anytime you want to get information on these 17 projects that I'm going to present, you can click on that link in our BPS site. And then some of the specific bigger projects might have individual links that also give more detailed information than the one slide that I've dedicated for each of the 17 projects. So we've got 11 roadway projects that are currently programmed and 6 bridge projects. The funding sources that provide financial support for all these projects is a wide array of federal funding from STPS, CMAQ, TAP, bridge monies. We've got city obligation bonds, ward capital funding. We've got ARPA funding, and then various private sources like Great Rivers Greenway, Greater St. Louis Inc., sometimes MSD. In getting into the road projects, the way I've ordered these is sequential, with the projects listed first being the first ones come out to bid, and then the last ones of the 11 roadway will be a timeline that shows it coming later on. They're in time sequence, essentially. So the first one's a CMAX signal interconnect on Goodfellow, runs from Delmar to Halls Ferry Circle. This is part of many traffic management enhancement projects that have funded and constructed over the years. We're up to phase 8 now. This Goodfellow is phase 4. And it's $3.2 million. We're going to bid it shortly and start construction typically 3 months after bidding. That's the time required to enter into contract, get MoDOT concurrence, our disadvantage M&W BE requirements reviewed and approved, and issue the notice to proceed. So that one hopefully will start in spring. 5.6 miles of signal interconnection, 8 new traffic signals and controller monitoring cameras, and ADA improvements. That menu of items is very typical of all these traffic management enhancement projects, which you'll see a few more in this presentation. And if you don't mind holding questions to the end, this probably will take about 15 minutes for me to get through, and then we'll hopefully have a few more minutes for Q&A. So our next project is the 20th Street improvements from Market to St. Louis Avenue. This is a partner project with SLDC. It's one of our spin-off projects with the NGA corridor improvements. It provides a two-way protected elevated cycle track along 20th Street. We're building new street lighting, fully ADA compliant corridor, new signals, landscaping, new mill and overlay, and curbs and sidewalks as needed. We plan to bid this $14 million project in the spring of this year and hopefully start construction in 24. Our Tower Grove Connector Phase 1 runs along Tower Grove Avenue from Tower Grove Park at Magnolia north to Van Eventer and then easterly on Van Eventer to Sarah Street. It's a partnership with Greater St. Louis, Inc. A lot of the ward capital provided local match for the grant and also paving the corridors. It's about 8.4 million. We also plan to bid this in 24. It's an elevated two-way cycle track, very similar to 20th. Street lighting, landscapes, street trees with signal interconnection, and then the new asphalt paving. This is probably the most complicated slide I'm going to present, so I'll spend a little more time with it. This slide captures $31 million of ARPA funding that the city has earmarked through board bill or through the most recent board bills of ARPA dealing with transportation. It involves 5 major north-south arterials on Goodfellow, Union, Kings Highway, Jefferson, and Grand. All of those corridors are currently being designed by 3 consultants. Also involves the 10 hotspot high crash locations that were identified in these yellow dots that you see on the map to the left. It also incorporates improvements at Chippewa as one of the funded traffic study areas that are part of these projects. But we will have multiple bid packages. Our ARPA timelines drive this schedule. We are planning to have bid packages ready by the summer and bid this in the summer so that we can be under contract as required by ARPA deadline by the end of the year. And issue notice to proceed on all these jobs so that we can start construction in 25 and finish by the end of 26. But to summarize the scopes of these projects, the primary features are repaving the roadways, but we're also taking the opportunity to restripe the roadways to right size the lanes, incorporate lane reductions, lane narrowing, potentially building lower cost traffic calming features like pinned on bump outs, concrete medians, flexible delineators. We will have enhanced crosswalks, Americans with Disability Act upgrades to all the curb ramps at the major intersections along the route. Some of the routes will have new bicycle improvements. And that's pretty much it in the summary. This is a tremendous amount of work for the consultants that are doing this. It's going to be a lot of work for the contractors that are available and interested in pursuing these projects. And we're very excited and hopeful that we can move forward with the schedule as I presented, and that there's interested parties to bid upon and build these within the tight ARPA deadlines. Next project is the Tucker Boulevard cycle track running from Choteau to Washington. It's a TAP funded job at 1.3 million. We want to bid this in the summer, start construction in the fall, but it's a street running, two-way cycle track protected by parking, with pinned-on concrete medians, more protection than just flexible delineators. We've got enhanced green markings at conflict zones. On that picture at the bottom right, you see a mid-block crosswalk. That's the crosswalk right in front of City Hall across Tucker. You could see we're building bump outs. We're putting in a median refuge, shortening those pedestrian crosswalks. That'll be a nice improvement. And then we've worked closely with Bi-State to incorporate pinned-on transit stop platforms at every stop along the route. Similar to Tucker, we have a South Broadway cycle track that runs from the River City Boulevard to Dover. It's 1.2 million. We want to bid this one too in the summer of 24. Start construction in the fall. It's a two-way protected cycle track with enhanced markings, similar transit stop upgrades with islands. And we're looking at running that parking protected cycle track on the east side of South Broadway. Then another one of these signal interconnects on Delmar, Phase 5, about a $3.8 million job. We want to bid this in 25, build it in the summer of 25. 3 miles of interconnect, 10 traffic signals, similar monitoring cameras, and all ADA upgrades at every one of those intersections that are being rebuilt. We have a Phase 2 Tower Grove connector that carries at the termination, or it starts at Vandeventer and Sarah, where Phase 1 stopped, and then runs due north on Sarah Street from Vandeventer up to Forest Park Avenue. It crosses the Brickline Greenway at the Metrolink crossing, and it involves a two-way on-street protected cycle track with lighting, landscaping, 3 new signals. And that is also a partner project with Greater St. Louis, Inc. But from south of the Metrolink track, it will be a cycle track. North of Metrolink, we're looking at on-street bike lanes that connect to Forest Park. And we have the Louisiana Common Streets Phase 2. As many of you know, we just completed Phase 1. This Phase 2 carries the project south to Coronet Park, from Merrimack at Dutchtown to Holly Hills, which borders Coronet Park. It's a TAP-funded job at $2.1 million. We plan to, this one has not yet started the design, but we want to start that design in actually 2024. I'll make that adjustment, and then we'll design it and then bid it in fall of 2025 with construction in early 26. But it's very similar to Phase 1. We'll have various traffic calming, bike boulevard type elements with traffic circles, bump outs, branding, wayfinding, crosswalks, and then asphalt mill and overlay. Another signal interconnect, Phase 6, is on Dr. Martin Luther King, Old Mount to Grand, $3.2 million. Start design in the summer of 24, bid it in the spring of 26, and construct it in the summer of 26. It's 4 miles of signal interconnect, 7 signal upgrades. Again, traffic monitoring cameras and ADA upgrades at every one of those signals. And lastly, on the street projects is our 4th in Washington multimodal project. This runs on 4th Street from Shoto to Convention Plaza, and that will consist of a 2-way cycle track. Also has various traffic calming with bump outs, enhanced crosswalks. We're working very closely with the neighborhood groups, the Greater St. Louis Inc., and other partners to develop traffic calming and small-scale streetscape type project. And then on Washington, it runs from 3rd Street to 4th Street or 14th Street. And that consists of a raised intersection at Washington and 8th Street, other lane restriping, potential bump outs, and other traffic calming features. We are in design right now with Lockmiller Group. We anticipate bidding the project in the fall of 2025 and building it in the spring of 2026. This is also tied to the Broadway ARPA-funded traffic calming. It's all being designed as one project, but we were creative in getting extra funding to do 4th and Washington through TAP, where we didn't have enough ARPA originally allocated, but they'll both be coordinated, the Broadway with this TAP funded job. And then quickly go through the 6 bridges. Hamilton Bridge is just north of Forest Park over Metrolink. It's $2.5 million. We are bidding that next month. Hopefully start construction in the summer. It's the bridge that goes over Metrolink and connects the DeBoliver Skinker neighborhood district. Then we've got a long-term project that's been on the books for some time, Southwest and Columbia and the Hill. Columbia Bridge has been closed for many years. We are raising the bridge to provide Union Pacific Railroad clearance. They're partners in the project, financial partners. We are wrapping up right away now. It's fairly complicated. A couple residences are impacted for this project. We're making one bridge from the 2 that exist now and raising the bridge up 5.5 feet. Our next bridge is the Compton Bridge over the Mill.
Are you moving in? No, I just deleted it. Oh, okay.
Compton over the Mill Creek Rail Yard from Shoto to Spruce. This is $20 million. We anticipate to bid this in 24. Construction in fall of 24. We are shortening the bridge. It was built way longer than it needed to be. A lot of the rail functions have disappeared over time. We're going from 1,350-foot span to 450 feet. But a nice feature of this job will have separated bike facilities, separated pedestrian facilities, and 2 lanes of traffic in each direction on this new bridge. Another big bridge project is the Lindell Union Bridge over Metrolink and Forest Park Parkway. Shout out to Adam Treaser. I just saw some of his concepts on protected bike lanes and some work he did on the planning level. Some of these ideas can be shared at the open house that's scheduled at the end of this month for this project. It's a $25 million construction cost. We're about done with preliminary design. And this is typical of all federal projects. Once we complete preliminary, we conduct a public house, open house, to get additional feedback to inform and potentially involve with or incorporate into the project design. But this is a combination bridge over both Metrolink and Forest Park Parkway. Right now, it's two bridges. We are making one big bridge that spans those and making some connections that are different from the layout that exists now. We're working closely with Forest Park Forever and going through their whole 9-step process, in addition to the public meeting that's occurring. But we've got a lot of activity in this zone and a lot of multimodal needs and opportunities, which the goal is to fully embrace and build the best project we can. Next bridge, this is a local bridge or off-system bridge in Forest Park. It's very similar. Grand Drive goes over Forest Park Parkway and Metrolink. It's two bridges. We're combining it to one bridge. $6 million job. We're going to start design in 24. Bid it in the fall of 26, build it in 27, or start in 27. But we will have improved access for bicycling and pedestrians over the bridge and into and out of Forest Park on the Grand Drive. And then our last bridge project is Loughborough over Union Pacific. This is about an $8 million job. We're partnering with MoDOT in coordinating their replacement of Loughborough over I-55. The bridges almost touch each other. We are starting design this spring with anticipated bid in the fall of 26 and construction in the spring of 27. But this bridge spans the Union Pacific Railroad in Coronellet Park. And we'll have a shared use path, most likely on the south side, that will connect to the Loughborough Commons site, and then have different potential connections into the Greenway, the Coronellet Park connector under Loughborough. So just to comment on, I'm going to jump back to the most complicated initiative. That's the ARPA $31 million. And make a comment on public outreach. I know there's been various entities wanting to know when plans are going to be available for review, what type of public engagement and opportunities for comments will be available on this initiative. And the preliminary designs should be completed by the end of March this year, and the plans will be posted on the BPS website with opportunities to comment on those plans. We also plan to have various open house style meetings to display some of these concepts and also get additional input on various phases or various sections. We haven't yet came up with a format on where and when and how many the open houses will be, but we are planning to engage in some open forum. The details are to be determined. But by the end of March, you'll see more opportunities to engage and comment upon the arterial project. With that, I'm going to stop talking and open it up for any questions.
Thanks so much, John. We have plenty of questions. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to it due to timing, but I will lift up one or two questions, and any questions that were answered or asked in the chat, I'll make sure you get them, John, so that everyone can see them later. One of the questions was, will there be any protected bike paths built on the ARPA corridors?
It's possible. Some of the preliminary plans I've seen on Grand do show protected bike lanes, yet we haven't vetted the options, but that is certainly possible.
Okay. Does the city have plans for funding and scheduling of maintenance for the new protected bike lanes?
I'll let Bethany speak to that.
Thank you so much, John. So currently, we do not have those types of funding available, but we are looking at putting them in budgets, FY budgets, moving forward. As these plans of these 5 quarters, this is the start of something that we have not done in the city for a very long time. And so we're using these 5 corridors as a pilot of how we can design, build, and maintain. And so the plan of action is once we get those plans and we see exactly what we are going to be implementing on these 5 corridors, then we will be able to fund maintenance of the sidewalks in these bike lanes and areas like that as we move forward.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and I'll lift up one more question before we move. We do have plenty more questions coming in the chat. The question is, are there any plans or policies in place for utilities whenever utilities work needs to be done on any of these corridors or projects? And this is referring to the dig once policy.
That's a great question. We have instructed the consultants and we are following through with notifications to all the major utilities on these routes, informing them of our schedule and our scopes, encouraging them to program and build any major capitals improvements that they have on their utilities on these corridors, so that we don't have utilities coming in for major projects tearing up what we've just repaved.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's always a likelihood you could have emergency situations that will impact new pavement, but we're trying to avoid these major capital projects and eliminate that chance from occurring.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. This was a lot of information, and I'm sure a lot of us want to sit and dig into it a little more, but I'll make sure these questions get sent over to you, and maybe there's another opportunity to dive into these questions live. So I'll chat with you offline about that.
All right,
But-
and just one quick comment. Each slide has the name of the BPS project design manager on the bottom of it, their email. So if you have a specific question on a project, if it's not highlighted somewhere else in the website, you can always reach out to that design manager to address your comment directly on that job.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And will you be able to share this slide deck?
Yes,
Awesome.
it's posted now on our BPS website. I'll send you
Awesome.
the link,
Thank you so much.
okay?
All right, next we will move into subcommittee updates. Aubrey, you can take the lead.
Hey everyone, not very many updates, just a few. The engagement subcommittee didn't have their last meeting, so Dawn said there's no updates there. I did want to tell everyone about a couple opportunities for involvement. Liz Kramer, the former co-chair, is going to be starting an enforcement subcommittee, and she is kind of following around tracking the proposed automated enforcement legislation, which is BB 105 and 106, to ensure that that is passed in a way that protects the civil liberties of St. Louisans and results in a long-term change on our streets. We'll explore the limitations of the current system of enforcement and future options that could be pursued to make conditions safe for holding drivers accountable for traffic violence. If you are interested in getting involved in that, please email Liz at kramer.liz@gmail.com. And as one of our goals is to get a little more involved in different events around the cities and with partners, we are hoping to have some of our newer members maybe take up the mantle of a partners and events subcommittee, especially focusing on people we can work with for Bike to Work Day and Parking Day in September. If anybody is interested in that, please reach out to me, aubrey.byron@gmail.com. And that's all. Thanks.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, Aubrey. Now, I didn't say hello to all of our new members. If you're in the meeting, sorry about that. Hello and welcome to the CMC again. We do have some things that we did not cover because we didn't have a meeting in December. We are currently voting on our bylaws. I know you all seen that email. So if you are a voting member, please read through the bylaws and send in your vote. And if you're not a voting member, but you're simply just curious on what the bylaws are, I put them in the chat, so feel free to go through that. We are making a couple changes just due to capacity right now. Normally, we will have a meeting every month with the CMC, but we are changing that to every other month. Now, we do recognize that this may make some of our meetings a little longer. If you're okay with that, we're okay with that. We'll just have to discuss it. So let me know what your thoughts are in the chat, or you could email Aubrey and I individually. So we will hold at least 6 meetings throughout the year, and we're making space for us to hold more meetings. But for now, the dates will be January 24th, March 27th, May 22nd, July 24th, September 25th, November 20th, and more than likely a December meeting. And during those meetings, you all told us what you wanted to talk about with the sentiments letter and then a review of our pillars. Essentially, we want to highlight safety and accessibility when we talk mobility in the region or just in St. Louis in general. And we're also super interested in some quick build collaborations and funding sources. So if you come across anything like that and you want to lift it up, or you want to talk further on some of these projects that John mentioned, this is the place to do that. We know education is key as well. It's great to have all these plans and projects in place, but we need to make sure all road users actually know how to access and use these roads, regardless of the mode that they choose to use. So we'll be talking through options for that and finding different partners that will help us boost awareness and improve education on how to use these roadways. And lastly, community involvement. We know we all really want to do more in the CMC, but we have life, our personal lives, and things that just takes our attention. And then just the capacity or the position of the CMC, we're not able to be involved in certain ways. But this is where we're going to rely on our regional partners. All those who are involved in transportation and mobility, they have different power, skill sets, and resources to make different things happen. So if you want to get way more involved in things, this will be your opportunity. You can come to CMC or join the partnership and event subcommittee to be more active. There was one more thing I wanted to share. Give me 1 second. Oh, Metro adjustments. Yes. So earlier in the meeting, I did give flowers to Metro. Just for the way that they handled the ice storm and making sure that everyone got the information on what routes were available, what routes were shut down, and when to expect service to resume to normal. Congratulations to Metro on that. You did an awesome job. But if you didn't know, if you're a Metro user, they did adjust several Metro routes, and it's listed on their website. They adjusted them on January 15th. And these changes included adding service to 17 Metro routes. I know in the past, we wrote a lot of letters asking Metro to resume service, to stop shutting down Metro routes. Well, they heard us and they added more service. So shout out to them. There were some minor schedule and routing adjustments to about 4 routes, but there weren't any changes to the Metrolink services. So Metro has definitely been doing a lot of work recruiting, hiring, training, and if you follow them on Instagram, they will show you. So follow them on Instagram. They are doing some amazing work. And here's the website if you like to track what else is happening with Metro. But other than that, we are right at 2 o'clock. Again, if you really want to get super active and more involved in all things mobility, John lifted up some opportunities that will be coming in March for you to give your feedback, attend some open houses and things, and there's plenty of other opportunities around the city. You can expect to hear from us more partners that are doing some of the same work that we're doing, who have different initiatives, projects, letters, and things that's going out. Patrick named some of them as well. And Christian just put one in the chat as well. So if you're looking to get more involved, we will be sending that information out. If there aren't any other questions or comments, we will adjourn the meeting. Scott, you have a question or comment?
I was just going to encourage people to check out the upcoming workshops for the St. Louis Strategic Land Use Plan update, which Planning and Design is managing. There are 3 virtual workshops coming up. You can learn more about what each one is about at slup-stl.com. Some of them I would say are definitely mobility and transportation adjacent, so please participate.
Can you say that link again?
slup-stl.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Any other comments or questions? All right. I'm glad this was very informative, Tiana. Look, this year is going to be great with CMC. So I look forward to doing all this work with you all. That will conclude our meeting. Thank you all so much for joining. Have a great Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody.